All right. Happy Friday, everybody. It is a beautifully cold 60 degrees here in Seattle, Washington, and that is how I like it. It has been way too hot over the past couple of weeks, and so I am super excited for fall to be here. I just love my lattes and getting up in the morning when it's nice and cold. So yeah, we're gonna have a good episode today. We have Atticus Ray with us from Rhythm with Views on Amazon. Atticus has a background in development and flips and all that jazz. No pun intended, because he is also a dancer. That was very well played on my part. But Atticus, thank you very much for hopping on the show.
I am so glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. I told you before we got on here, we're like starting with stories. I know you got a good one. So take us to the beginning of your story. How'd you get started in real estate?
Let's go back. I was started in my dancing. Actually, I paid my way through school with dancing. But I did realize that, what if my legs failed? What if this happened or that happened? Do I have a backup plan? And I didn't. So I thought real estate, let's dabble in that, which looking back probably wasn't the best starter backup plan. It's really hard to start that, but I thought, why not? You got to live in a house. And so my reasoning was, you're going to live in a house the rest of your life. Why not learn a little bit about them? And if I can make some extra money or do something that doesn't require my legs, and real estate investing and all of that, I noticed a lot of those folks were riding around in cars, and just kind of walking around looking at things. So I was thinking, okay, I can do this. And I got involved in my first house with a buddy. We were going to do it together, and pretty much I ended up doing it, and it ended up not being a great deal, and I ended up holding the bag on it and all of these things. So a glutton for punishment. I said, I'm not going to be a failure at this. I'm not going to let it beat me. So I just kept going. And I think that's everybody's story, just plowing through it. There really is no, books that can help you in every situation. And even if there was, the applying it to the moment, and the pressure, as you're trying to learn all this stuff, it was just intense. But ironically, like from the show standpoint, it follows me doing construction and building, and then it follows my life in the dancing world, which is a lot of productions and putting shows together and making things happen. And ironically, uh, construction and production are very similar. You take a concept, you put it on paper, you find talent at a budget to fulfill the product that you're trying to get done, and you create something from thin air. And they're very similar that way, and it's all talent based and budget based. And I thought, wow, so that was one of the taglines that ended up coming out of the show was, where big construction meets big production. And they're very similar. So ironically, just over the course of all this time, they've been two separate things moving towards more one, you know thing that I do now, which is just bouncing back and forth between my entertainment life and the real estate investing. And so they kind of just came together, and you wouldn't think those two worlds fit, but once you overlay them with that template or whatever, it sort of made a lot of sense, even in my own mind. I'm like, I'm kind of doing the same thing here, and just in a different medium. And so it kind of made it easier for me to digest what I was doing, because I felt like all over the place for a while, but now it makes a lot more sense. And then once the show came together, it's like, oh, that's my life. So here we are.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, I feel like so many people in real estate, they have it as their second gig, their second job, their second career. But it usually, it does fit so well. So many skills that are required in real estate apply to so many other areas in life or other careers,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to construction management, because construction management and, as you said, production of any type of entertainment show, I'm sure there's a lot of corollaries there. So you could bring one skill you learned in dance production, bring it on over to real estate construction management, and apply the same principles. So love to hear that. Like that you had some crossover there. So after that first deal that you did with your buddy that kind of went sideways,
Yeah.
how'd you scale from there?
I took the approach. I wish I'd have done this actually even sooner, but I took the approach of, practicing where I lived. So I started doing more of my flips, more of my, work, buying and selling based on where I was going to live, and the house that I was going to live in. And so at first, that really, that really helped me not have to have this additional budget or other monies that I had to find, or to try, like you saying, to scale up past my comfort zone. And in the back of my mind, it gave me a safety net, because, you have to live somewhere. And that, I wish I'd have done that sooner, actually, through all my college years and all of that. I wish I would have really put all of that money towards real estate where I was living, even if I'd have done a lease to own, or a rent to own, or a land contract of sorts. I'm sure I could have found it if I looked hard enough. And looking back, that really would have set me up, probably would have shaved 10, 15 years. When you really look at if I could have come out of, let's say, college with a house that you already have an asset, it's appreciating, all your rent money, all your money is going into an asset now. And no matter what the degree does for you, no matter what your job or whatever happens, there's no promises going forward. I would have at least had all that time, um, you know, going towards something. And I think that's, looking back, what I would do is just more of that. And then every 2 years, I would have done that while I was younger and not married. Buy, and then every 2 years get into a new house and get that money without that capital gains. And it would have been so much easier when I was younger, and looking back, no strings. I could have just bounced around house to house to house and done that 3 or 4 times and really set myself up, looking back.
Gotcha. So you wish you would have invested in your own town. What was the actual trajectory that you guys took?
Well, just for me, when I made it more about where I was living, my decisions became a lot easier, because I could just be looking at, well, where am I going to live in a few years from now, and I could use my asset to just keep leveling up while I kept doing the other things that I do. And it didn't become a takeaway for me, where I was spending all this time on real estate that was not producing me any money. Just once you sell out, 2 or 3 years down the road, and you find another property, you get all of that capital gains you made, tax free. And I kind of discovered that by accident. I wish I'd have just went into that knowingly, right
Mm,
out of high school. Just, even if it was a dive, just buy it, fix it up, paint it. Paint goes a long ways, and just keep leveling up, especially when you're younger, when you don't have those strings attached and you're more flexible. So then when I got into where I had to, start doing developments and find investors or borrowing money, everything slows down.
mm.
It's a
Yeah, for
lot
sure.
more work. And but going on the path of getting a home, and eventually getting my home to be debt free, freed me up to not be so desperate to find deals, which was another thing that, when you're borrowing money and you're in that paying the money back mode, you can get desperate, and you can start making decisions, and feeling like you need to keep turning over the wheel, keep doing another deal. And I learned that a deal I never made is money I've never lost. I mean, I only lose monies on deals I make that go bad. So, if
Yeah,
I don't,
hopefully we're not losing any money on those deals.
yeah, but if you don't make a deal, you don't necessarily lose money. You might lose potential, but nobody comes and takes money out of your bank account. And I like having a more stress free real estate life than the one where I can't sleep at night. And
Yeah.
going debt free was really the key for that.
Yep, that makes sense. So let's talk a little bit about what you're doing today in your real
Yeah,
estate career.
yeah.
I know you do development, you do flips. What's your favorite strategy, and what do you like to do in real estate today?
Right now, I feel like everybody is right now. They want something right now. It's hard for people, to be thinking really far down the road. And being outside of Nashville, people just want a house ready to go. And so I've kind of just been, buying a lot or two, scooping them up, then building the spec home, having the home ready, and then the home sells. It's pretty straightforward. It's easy to make sure that the lot is perked and ready to go, and there's no encumbrances on it, and you can get started right away. and even done like some to be builts and getting interest before we've even done it. But it's clean. The larger projects, I'm finding that people aren't sure, and so they're willing to talk a lot about it. But meanwhile, I like to do things, so I've been kind of finding that just doing the lots, it's easy. Um, it's easy to manage. It's straightforward. I can kind of use the same plan over and over again because the lots aren't in the same subdivision. So as I just buy a lot here and there and keep it within a reasonable work area for me, um, it just makes it easy to do that same plan over and over and over again. And all the guys that I use and the crews and everything, they don't have to learn the new plan. They come into every one of my deals. They already know what I want, you know, and I just realized I'm not really getting paid more for being creative. Nobody wants to pay me more per square foot because I got creative on this one. And so by just having a house that I can do not side by side, and even in some situations I've done them side by side, literally, and you just don't get paid to figure out new plans and new color schemes and all of that stuff. So find new vendors. It doesn't really pay anymore. And so that's kind of what I've been doing, is trying to get everything to the least amount of work, like not in a bad way, but the least amount of unnecessary work. I'm a hard worker on work that counts, but I don't like wandering around the, construction stores and places and trying to find things and going on Amazon for endless hours to find stuff. So that has really been, and COVID really honestly sent me down that path. COVID did not help, but you would walk in to try and buy something and it wasn't there. And so I learned real quick, you had to pick things that, I could get, and also that I could replace if I needed to. And so that really set me on that path in the last few years of just keep it very simple, and you don't make any more money for being complicated.
Yeah.
Actually, it costs you. It always costs you money and time.
So you find a lot, you get your construction company to go out there, build a house and sell it. Really simple.
Yes.
You know, this is a model that a lot of new investors or people who have this as a side gig, I feel like it's a good model for them. Why don't you run us through it from nuts to bolts? How do you find the lot? What do you have to do to that lot to prepare it for construction? And then how do you find a good contractor to work with to build the house?
Yeah, it is complicated. There are a lot more laws on this now, especially if you're just coming in as the investor. You really need to, you know, you're you're attaching your name to this product, your money, everything to this product. So just because somebody has a license or something like that does not mean they can do this. And so there's a lot of moving pieces in a house, a lot of things that people rely on. Uh, the old timers, so to speak, would know these things. You have to double check now when you hire somebody and they say, I can frame for you, or I can do this, or I can do that. You really just can't take their word for it anymore. You have to know how to check up on them. So that's something that I've been noticing as well. It's funny you say that. I've been actually moving towards working with investors and basically just saying, okay, let's partner up behind the scenes. And I've been through this rodeo many, many times. So I'll basically help manage this build. You put the money up, I'll help manage the whole thing, and we get this done. And I've got a book this thick of my processes that I now know in my mind. I can do it. It looks easy when I do it because I've got all the right contacts in my phone. I've got the easy part all figured out. But the hard part is getting all of that organized and then knowing what to do with it. And there are so many things that you need to really be aware of. How does the whole, it'd be like saying, okay, I've studied football. I'm pretty sure I know all the plays. Now I'm going to walk out onto the prime time here with the NFL. You don't know the culture. You don't know how it works. You don't know what it's like in the locker room. You have no idea what trainings are. You've never done that. And I think that's the thing about, if you're starting to get into, especially new builds, and even fixing can get, you can walk into some traps. So you really need to know that you know when somebody is telling you that what they're telling you is right or wrong. And so there it's becoming more and more incumbent on the investor, I believe, to know what is happening. They can't just play dumb and say, well, my guy said, you know,
Yeah.
it's just not going to work. And I think there was a time you could just kind of be more offstandish and get a good person and they could kind of look out for you. But you're really risking that aspect now of what people tell you. You really have to, I guess, fact check everybody in some sort. And so if you don't know how to do that, that's another aspect of the job you're taking on. And so I really feel like before you even get into the how and how do you even get a lot and all of that, you really should do a gut check and say, do I know enough to really know if somebody's telling me the right thing? And if not, my suggestion would be always to find a mentor, find somebody, even if you've got to cut them in. It's called school, and you can either get schooled the hard way or you can get schooled by somebody who's going to make sure that your money is not just getting dumped off the edge of a cliff.
Yeah.
And so
So
I feel like
let's
that's the
choose
first
just
step.
one piece of wisdom that we can give the listeners today. I know there's a lot that goes into anything, flipping, building, buying and rehabbing, all that kind of stuff. So let's just choose, how do you find the lot? That's something that I'm sure you can give us a step by step. What is the way that the system you use to find a good lot to build on?
Um, you know, I don't know if I can recommend this to everyone else, but what has worked for me is just simply keeping my eyes open. And when I'm out somewhere, I almost, I mean, gosh, it seems like 90% of the time, I really run into my next deal in the process of working on my deal.
Mm,
And that's probably in marketing. Nobody really wants to hear that, is that, that's the formula. But real estate is the ultimate people business. So real estate does nothing without people. Product can make it to an auction or this or that, but everything's so attached in real estate to people. And so as long as you're telling people what you do, you're meeting people, you're running into people while you're busy, people even find you, and you just have to keep remembering what your next step is. What are you wanting to do? And if you tell enough people and you talk to enough people, I've found, maybe it's just a lot of luck, but I found all my deals seem to be waiting for me while I'm doing my deal, and I don't have to go too far. Now, sometimes I will. There has been a few where I'll just go online and look myself, and then call up the real estate agent I'm working with or whatever, and chase a few down. There has been a few like that, but my thing that I always like to tell everyone that I've come across is almost always in real estate, um, when you're finding a deal, it's really at the expense of another party. Nobody's just giving it away. So when you buy or find an incredible buy, usually timing has a lot to do with it. The timing of the seller. So the seller might be in a position where they want to dump the lots, or maybe they're having legal problems, or maybe they're getting a divorce. There's always a problem that seems to precede a really good buy. And whether that's a foreclosure or whatever, somebody's loss is your gain. And so I don't know if you can necessarily, find that other than just knowing that it's timing. So it's sort of like, putting your net in the water and the fish swims into it at the right time. I mean, your net has to be there. You have to be actively doing that all the time. But understanding that timing is something you don't control. And so I've
well,
really
and
just
I
found that
think that would be the advice, is just make sure that you're taking action.
you have
Especially when it
to.
comes to finding deals, it's got to be volume. You got to be
You're
sending
not.
out letters. You got to be reaching out to
I'd
brokers.
like to know there's a magic formula that finds me deals. Maybe there is for some people and some certain niches, but almost in anything, in my experience, timing is the key to your good deal, and it's usually at someone's expense, and that's just reality. And I didn't create that system, but it is the system. Someone usually doesn't say, you know, wow, I've got more money than ever. I'm going to put this lot out there and take it for a loss. I mean, if they've got more money than ever, they're going to put a high dollar price on that and sit on it for 5 years. I mean, they don't have to sell it. So usually your gain is at the expense of someone's loss. And
Yeah, and I don't know if I would say expense, but I do agree that a lot of times when you find good deals, it's because of a situation in the seller's life. But
it's always
uh,
timing,
yeah,
you know, and it's always
so
bad news. I've never had a good news, great buy situation. You know, I'm looking for that, but typically
one of these days, right?
one of these days, they're usually happy when I buy it just because I can help make their problem go away because of whatever they're in. But it's a different kind of happy, you know,
Mm-hmm. It's a
it's a
relief.
sweet and sour happy. So they're sad to see it go, but they're happy they could get out of the problem they're in, you know. So
There you go.
yeah.
Well, hey man, I just took a peek of the clock. It looks like we have run it down, so it's time to jump into the quick question round. Are you ready?
All right, let's do it.
Let's do it. Starts with books or any form of education. I need two recommendations: one for general life wisdom, one for real estate specific.
My general life wisdom is the Bible. Pretty much every human experience I've ever come in has somehow already been mapped out in that book of books. And so for me, even beside the religious aspect, just situationally, everything you could ever think of that could happen to you seems to have happened already in those books. So that's kind of my life one. And as far as real estate, you know, I've never really specifically went after anybody else's books or whatever. What I focused on just was the material for, you know, the state you live in. So, you know, knowing your material, where you live, and just it's a boring book, but it's the book that will keep you out of court, is knowing your state laws and knowing, you know, your building codes and those types of things. And I just put all my effort into that, not into how am I going to get some great deal for pennies on the dollar. I've actually gotten some great deals creatively, but it really never again came from a book or anything. But the things that I've always gravitated to was just the hard course material that matters where I'm at because you know, I don't want to do something wrong, even if it's accidentally. In real estate, you can't say, you know, oops, I didn't mean to. It still doesn't matter. You know, you're kind of, you know, on the hook, so to speak. So those were the books that I focused on, and I don't think anybody can go wrong, you know, going onto your state website, reading through all everything line by line. Don't just rely on your accountant or your lawyer or somebody like that to read things for you, or a contractor you're working with to just tell you they got it covered. You know, go read it yourself. It's boring, but it benefits you, you know, and it looks out for yourself. So that's kind of my two pieces there that I go by.
All right. Yep. Makes sense. All right. Next question is for your younger self. So let's go back to the Atticus who had zero experience in real estate. He was just partnering on that first deal. Go back to him, look him in the eye, give him one piece of advice moving forward.
Find immediately out of high school, find a land contract or something that I could immediately get into a rent to own situation or something like that. And then after that, and the ideal one is if it could be a duplex, that'd be great. But after that, then immediately when you can buy that and then sell that and move into your next unit, I would have immediately moved into like a duplex. And, you know, because you're young, you're just trying to make money. But then I would have allowed that duplex to help pay for me to figure out what I'm going to do from there. And I feel like that would have, you know, looking back, if I would have just done those two moves, it would have set me 20 years ahead.
Yeah, that's a great game plan for anybody in their early 20s to get out there, get a duplex, live in one side. In fact, that's what I did when I first got started. So
Okay.
um, great move and great advice. Next question is about the U.S. It's a big place, a lot of opportunity out there. Give me the single metro, the single city you're most excited about investing in today.
I'm right here, right outside of Nashville, anywhere outside of it. We have a housing shortage. You know, when they say there's a housing shortage in the US, you know, that's probably not in the middle of, you know, North Dakota or South, you know, in the middle of the desert or somewhere. That's those averages are based on the whole US. But what right here, we have a huge shortage, and more people coming all the time, and a lot of businesses moving, which is forcing the move of people to come here. And there's more people coming every day and less people like me who can actually build these homes. So inventory shrinking. People are holding on to their homes now. They're not getting because they have to go buy an expensive house, so they're just keeping their house. So the flips have dried up, and there just isn't a ton of inventory now. So here, right where I'm at, I don't see any stop to it. And it's the perfect retirement zone. As I've been really considering a lot of factors of early retirement. I think a lot of people are really toying around with the idea of early retirement since COVID. I think they got a taste of some home life. They got a taste of what am I really going to this job for? Am I happy at what I'm doing? And I feel like a lot of people are thinking about cashing out and retiring. And Tennessee is just kind of right in the middle. We don't have the hurricane problems like we might get in Florida and the extreme heat. So I think just from that standpoint, we're just kind of sitting right here in a place that's just bound to keep growing.
Yeah, Tennessee or Nashville is a great metro for sure. And especially if you live there already, you already know it. So there's nothing.
There,
It's
tax-free aspect too. I didn't realize that when I moved here, but man, if you're going to build a future and you're going to want to own a lot of property and you're going to want to have a lot of assets and things like that, why not be in a state that's just not going to overly tax you, and having no state income tax and low property taxes? It just, coming from originally Michigan, which has very high taxes, it was such a shock, and and amazing almost, really, to be like, wow. So I'm excited to be here just for that reason, where I feel from a legacy standpoint, I can pass things down to my children and my family, and not have to worry as much that the kids down the grandkids or whatever down the way are going to lose all of this because they can't even make the taxes on the property or something like that. So I really feel like it's just a place to, park your future and a little bit more of a security.
There
So
you go. I love it. All right, next question is about your strengths. We are all given gifts that we uniquely provide this world. So, what is your Superman strength?
I think one of my greatest strengths is just the ability to, um, you know, to talk to people, to connect in a very, very quick way. And then the ability and the desire to want to help them. And I've just almost literally all of my deals have just been word of mouth. I just, almost everything I do is word of mouth, even my performance career, the dance career. Now a lot of that is getting out in front of the public, and people then talk for me, but I've just allowed that aspect to work for me. I've really not had to promote a lot. And I just think that the more of a people person you are, you're just bound to succeed, and you don't necessarily have to be on stage to be a people person, but you generally have to care about humanity. I think you generally have to care about more than yourself to be a people person. I think people today can tell if you're just putting on a people person front, where you're just trying to, be nice and be positive and all of these things, or if you generally care about people, and you have to kind of care more, or not care so much about yourself, but care more about other people. And I just think that that genuineness carries through now, and people can tell, and more than ever, especially since we're talking about investors, it all comes down to, I always call it my $50,000 or my $100,000 check. Who do you feel confident giving $100,000 to at a time? Who do you feel confident handing $50,000 over at a time, and feeling like this person can make it happen? And so you've got to be genuine. And the day of just having a lot of accolades and a really big business card and all of this, it's just not enough. We need to be able to trust who you're working with, and so I just feel like, that's probably my greatest asset, is just the ability to talk to anybody. I mean, they could be just, somebody at Walmart. I mean, to many people would walk by and say, that's really nobody in my sphere, my world. But I've learned that that's a person who's connected to another person who's only a couple people away from something. You'd be surprised where these things lead just in conversation. So
Yep.
be willing to explore that.
All right. Yep. That's definitely a strength, especially here in real estate. It's all relationships. So moving
Yeah.
on to the last question, and
Right.
this is for the listeners. I'm sure people want to reach out, get in contact with you, learn a little bit more about your the show you got on Amazon. So where can
Yes.
people get in contact with you?
You can go to, we've got a link tree. So that's probably the easiest, just the official Atticus Ray at Linktree. And it's going to give you our websites. You can go check out the Rhythm with Views. It's got the links to go, I believe, directly to the Amazon Prime and Apple TV Plus if you want to watch the episode. I encourage everyone to go watch it. It's it's unique in the way of a format that's never been done, and you're going to walk away going, wow, because I mean, there's some great cinematic stuff going on there, dancing across waterfalls, dancing across the side of mountains, doing these performance numbers. But then you also get to see me building these houses. So it's a very interesting, combination, and you'll learn, but mostly you'll be able to walk away and feel like you got something out of that, entertaining and something you can sit down with your whole family and hopefully inspires you in your journey, to take your business, your investments, whatever you're doing to a whole nother level. And that's kind of my message to everybody, is to tap your potential, to make it happen. And just want to encourage everybody to get out there and, and live your dream, whether it's on screen or off screen, but do it for you and make it happen.
All right. I'll put those links in the show notes. So if y'all want to reach out to Atticus, just click the little
Awesome.
more in the
Thank
description.
you.
It'll pull down the full description. In there, you can find those links.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on today.
Yeah. Thank you very much for hopping on the show.
All right. You're welcome.
And for everybody who's here with us today, thank you guys for showing up. You are the reason we do this. So if you guys have any questions whatsoever, reach out to me, Gabe with realestateinvestingclub.com. If you want to support the show, again, all we ask, like, subscribe, share, all that jazz. Other than that, I hope you guys have a great week. Keep rocking real estate, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.